Good morning. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in too.
Yeah, so today's broadcast will be based in helping to open up your thighs, your hips for the middle splits. And by doing that, I'll give you bases to progress within the positions. Also, it'll be a handstand practice in terms of stability and support for developing a base. So before we start, I have some announcements for classes next week. The class times will change for Wednesday and Friday. New class times will be from 11 to 12 Eastern time. And then Saturday's class will stay the same, and that's 9 to 10. New Zoom class will be Sundays from 11 to 12 as well. And that is, to register for that class, you go to my website, and that's jonwittyoga.com. So we continue to donate masks to the communities, and also to, if you'd like to purchase a mask, you can purchase it on my website. It's jonwittyoga.com. So we'll start the class in all four positions. So you're going to be on your hands and your knees. So when you come down onto your hands will be just underneath the shoulders, and the knees will be underneath the hips. And I'm just going to be moving the weight from side to side. I'm packing the shoulder, so I'm trying, and anytime I'm being on my hands, to connect more into my fingertips. So to support yourself, whether it be handstand, any arm balance, you really want to understand how to connect into the hands. So the fingertips will be key for you to balance, so you can eventually start to transfer the weight from the front of the hand to the back of the hand. So sometimes people will have too much weight in the front of the hand, and then they'll tip forward, and then people won't be able to come up because there's too much weight in the heel of the hand, or the shoulder is not over the wrist. So when the shoulder's over the hand, the wrist, you'll be able to do that. So bring the back of your right hand on the floor. So this is the hard part of your hand, and with the hard part of the hand, it could be forward, it could be to the side. When I'm on my hands in something like this, I may want to start with just having one hand down as opposed to two. So I'm going to rock back a little bit. So I'm moving the weight back. So getting more weight in the back of the hand it's going to help with countering handstands. So the more you do them, the more pressure you get in the wrist. So this will help in alleviating the pressure within the wrist. So go back to having the hands to the side, and now you're moving the weight hand to hand, side to side, and this will help with loading up the hand for the handstands. So come back into the middle and turn the hands forward and push with the hands around the spine into a cat stretch. So you're broadening the shoulders. Look forward, look up. You can back bend, lift the chin, lift the chest. Exhale, round the spine. Again, connect into the fingertips. Back bend again, lift the chin, lift the chest, and then finish in a rounded position. So stay in a rounded position and just take the knees up off the floor a little bit. So I'm on the tops of the feet, and then push stronger through the hands. So get familiar with bringing more weight into the hands as opposed to all of your weight, because you want to learn how to push before you bring all of the weight into the hands. And then bring the knees down and just take the hands over to the left side and look high over the left shoulder. So lift the head, lift the chest. Take the hands back into the middle and then to the right. And then when the hands are to the right, look high over the right shoulder, lift the head, lift the chest. Right? And then come back into the middle and come up into a plank pose. So you're going to lift the knees up off the floor. So with the knees up off the floor, push with the hands. Again, round through the shoulders. And then just walk the hands back towards the feet. So walking the hands back. And then what you're going to do is walk forward. So the hands will be back into a plank for a moment. And then just walking back to the feet. So to walk up the wall with your feet, this is really the same thing. So when you're walking forward, you can transfer the weight hand to hand. And then as you move the weight hand to hand, later. When you're moving the weight hand to hand, okay. And then when you're moving the weight hand to hand, it'll help you in getting the weight into the hand that you don't necessarily bring the weight into. So bringing the hands back, right, and then walking the hands forward, come into a plank, and then what you'll do is you're going to lower as slow as you can to the floor. So push the floor away from you. Those of you that struggle in getting down, it's the lack of connection in the shoulders. So I'm trying to keep the connection in the shoulders so I don't crash. And then bring yourself all the way down, and then when you come down, take the arms into a W position and take the arms off the floor. So get the arms to lift up. As you lift the arms up and out, widen the shoulders, widen your back. Bring your arms down for a moment. Take your arms up. So I'm lifting my arms up and away from the floor, getting the shoulders to rotate back. And then bring the arms down, and then take the arms forward. So thumbs are facing up, shoulders are rotating out. Keep the ribs in, so when you're on your belly, especially if you have tight shoulders, the ribs will kind of jet forward, and this is what you'll really have to work through in terms of balancing on your hands. So take the arms up, but keeping the ribs in, and as you lift the arms up, you might not be able to lift them as much as you need to. Stay steady in lifting and pull the ribs in. So keeping the arms up and then bringing the arms back down. Come up into a Sphinx position and pull yourself forward. So pubic bone's moving into the floor. You're trying to get weight into the hips evenly. Look high over the right shoulder. Look high over the left. Look forward, pull yourself forward. Bring yourself down, have your hands just underneath your shoulders. And curl up into a low cobra or a high cobra. Broad shoulders, broad upper back. Bring yourself down. Curl up into a low cobra or high cobra. Get weight in the hips, get weight in the legs more for yourself. Bring yourself forward, bring yourself down. One more time, curl up. Feel where your back doesn't necessarily move, and that's where you're trying to move from. So lift up through the torso, lift up through the upper back. Bring yourself forward, bring yourself down. Have the hands just underneath the shoulders, then tuck the toes, lift straight up into a plank, and go back up into a down dog. So pull all the way back up into a down dog. Reach back through the heels. Right? And then what you'll do is walk the feet forward to the middle of the mat. Walk the hands back towards the feet. Walk the hands forward. Walk the feet forward. And then step the left foot back into a lunge. And then with the left foot back, I'm just kind of resting the weight in my right hand. And I'm just going to engage in the shoulder being back. And then I'm going to take the arm up into an open stance position. But just, you don't have to move the arm a lot, but I'm moving and exploring in terms of how much my shoulder moves in space. So I'm if you take it up statically, it's not necessarily moving as much as you'd like. I'm turning the palm forward to rotate the shoulder out. Bring the left hand down and then step the left foot forward. Step the right foot back. Bring the weight into the left hand and then taking the right arm up. As you take the right arm up, again, just move the arm. It doesn't have to be a circular motion. It could be. But I'm just kind of moving it back in space and then forward. I may move it forward in space or slightly back. Just see where your arm doesn't necessarily move in space, and that can help in getting the shoulders to move better for yourself. So push through the feet, and again, explore stretching and manipulating the shoulder. And then bring the right hand down and step the right foot forward. So you could be in a soft forward bend or you could be pulling. I'm going to take the hands to the left. I'm going to bring the hands to the right. And bring the hands back into the middle. So come back down onto the hands and the knees. And when you're back down on the hands and the knees, just have the hands just underneath the shoulders. Not a lot of these, but lift the heels of the hands up off the floor. So engage in the forearm. And then lower the heels of the hands down. So lifting again. And then lowering. If you try to keep the shoulder over the hand or wrist, I know it's a lot more difficult to do. So lift, and then lower, and then turn the hands back towards the knees. And when the hands are turned back, you're going to move the weight back into the fingertips. So adjusting the hands to the wrist, right? And then bringing it back, and then turning the hands forward. And then the first handstand we'll do is a bit of a kick up, but we're going to try to hold it for anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. So I'm going to do it for a minute. And when you're up, say you can't hold a full minute, but you're strong and you're able, the moment you come down, go back up. But again, you want to really push through the hands, get the shoulders involved. A lot of times people will just kick up, and there's really not a lot of strength in the hands, the arms. But when the arm is straight, that's why people can stay up. But when you start to get to push more through the hands, you'll have a much greater support, and you'll find it's a lot easier to stay up. So it's about really connecting into the hands. So when you're up in this position, like again, come down when you need to, but go back up. So when I'm at the wall, I don't want to be too close to the wall because I could bump into the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the weight forward, and then you could kick up or hop up in terms of like a donkey kick. Donkey kicks probably will be easier, or pike presses, whatever you want to call them, will probably be easier because you can use a bit of momentum to come up. Some people find if they don't have the flexibility to kick up with the leg, that's partially why it's so difficult. So whether you're kicking up or hopping up, just get in the habit of getting up, and it'll help condition you to be on your hands more. So I'm just setting a timer. I'm going to push through the hands. I'm going to round through the shoulders. And for you, just move forward and back, right? And then eventually you can kick up. And then as you kick up, try to stay at the wall as much as you need to, right? Of course. But as you're pushing through the hands, try to keep the belly and the ribs in. So I'm extending up through the feet, pushing as much as I can through the fingertips. And then if I come down, I'm going to go right back up, right? So you can kick up. And I've said this before, morning handstands are a little bit trickier to balance in. So keep pushing through the hands, get the shoulders involved. Tailbone is moving up, and then bringing yourself back down. So maybe you went up and down a few times or more. Come back into a forward bend, and then in a forward bend, just take the hands over to the left side. Take the hands to the right. Bring it back into the middle, and then step the left foot back into a lunge. Take the right arm up to the ceiling. So lift through the hand, lift through the arm, open through the shoulders. Bring the right hand down, and then step the left foot forward. Step the right foot back into a lunge. With the right foot back, take the left arm up to the ceiling. So scissors the legs in, twist through the upper body, get your back leg involved. Bring the left hand down, and then step the right foot forward. So with the right foot forward, separate the feet about the width of the shoulders. Come into a low level squat if you can. Heels might be up, feet might be turned out. All these are perfectly fine to do. But just get in the habit of squatting down. Again, I'm using this type of class where handstand and then working more like in terms of like flexibility. So getting into a low level squat is a lot of different positions in terms of yoga, right? Fold all the way forward into a forward fold. As you fold forward, step the left foot back into a lunge and bring the back knee down the floor and walk the hands over to the left side and look high over the left shoulder. So lift the head, lift the chest, bring your hands back into the middle and try to get lower if you can. As you're getting lower, engage in the feet, right? Use your feet to support your weight. Move the weight around. You might not be able to get as low as I am. Maybe you're lower, right? But as you're down, you're creating more and more leverage into the hips. come up onto the hands, and when you come up onto the hands, take the back foot up off the floor, pull into the foot with the hand, use the upper body towards the right knee and thigh, broad shoulders, broad upper back, okay? And then release that, and then as you release that, sit the hips back, point through the foot, you can flex it, you can point it, just to get the abdomen involved a little bit. See if you can lift the foot a bit off the floor, and then bring it down. As you bring it down, take the right arm up to the ceiling, back knee is up. Bring the right hand down, and then step the left foot forward. Step the right foot back into a lunge. Bring the left arm up to the ceiling. Twist through the upper body. Again, think that I'm pulling your hips back in space. Again, explore the range of motion in the shoulder. So if you always bring it the same way, not that that's bad, you might miss out on adjusting the shoulder. So actually back further is, something that I don't do often, but it's really what you need in think of dancer's pose. Bring the left hand down and then bring the back knee down. Walk the hands over to the right side and look high over the right shoulder. So lift the head, lift the chest. Bring the hands back into the middle, and you can get lower. And you can move the weight around, adjust the hips, adjusting the shoulders by getting lower. It's just consistently moving through, right? Being uncomfortable. If you want to go further in poses, it's definitely part of it. But shouldn't necessarily hurt. So patiently moving through a greater range of motion, and why I've picked Konasana and side splits, these types of positions, I find them safe and accessible, but then it can lead to doing more complex things, whether it be movement or yoga, right? Come up onto the hands. When you come up onto the hands, bring the left hand on the outside of the left foot, and then you can sit back. So you can point through the foot, you can flex it, you can point it, and you can flex it. Now, to lift up, you might need blocks, right? I'm going to take the left leg up. See which leg is stronger. In terms of this, my hip flexor is stronger on my left side, so it's actually easier to take this leg up than my right. And then bring it down. And then when you bring it down, take the back knee up off the floor. Take the left arm up to the ceiling again. So you're twisting through the upper body. Again, you could rotate through the shoulders, and then bring the left hand down, and then bring the right foot forward. So come back into a low level squat. So, not to talk bad about a yoga class, but the reason I'm teaching something like this is because you do a lot of stuff in between, and then you don't really have the energy or the focus to just get the pose. So not that this is a workshop, but it's a little bit more directed towards getting you ultimately what you would like to achieve, and that's a handstand. So we're going to try another handstand at the wall, and when you're just going to try to kick up and don't think of a minute is the be all. Think of what you do within the minute. So it's maybe 10 seconds or 20 seconds or even 5 seconds is really concentrated and helping to build the position, right? Getting you to come up. So let's kick up again, because I find that's easier than walking up for people, but the walk up is really, really good for alignment. So let's say you haven't really found the best alignment in a pose. We'll do that last, right? We'll do 3 rounds of this today. But when you kick up, remember, come down, take a couple breaths, really get the arms straight, pack the shoulder, use the fingertips. You'll be able to support yourself more. Again, it gets almost a point where it gets a little easy, and it's a matter of integration. Some of it is strength, right? So I'm gonna set the timer. I'm gonna push with the hands. I'm gonna round through the shoulders. Again, if you're kicking up, donkey kicking, you could do it in 3s. And then when you go up, these are heel stands. So you pull one leg away from the wall, and then you pull the other. But then go into the wall when you need it. or maybe you're at the wall the whole time. If I'm looking down at my hands, I'm more in an arc. So for me, it's better to look straight back rather than forward to the hand. So try to look at more of the heel of the hand when you're up if you can. And with the wall, you can get really comfortable with that. Go back up again. Push through the hands. And then also too, when you're coming down, you want to start to work on getting down slower as opposed to just crashing down, which isn't bad, right? Nothing's really bad unless you're hurting yourself. So if you're really working on the descent slow, you're getting a better practice in terms of strengthening the body. So come into a forward fold and take just the left hand underneath the wrist, or the hand is underneath the foot. So I'm going to bring more weight into the hand if I need it. And you don't have to see this, but I'm just rotating the shoulder out slightly. And that'll help adjust the wrist a bit more. Take the left hand out and then bring the right hand underneath the right foot. And then as you get the toes up to the wrist, rotate the elbow out, the shoulder out. Take a couple deep breaths here. So moving the shoulder back onto the back, toes up to the wrist, and then take that hand out. So you take the hand out, come into a plank again, and then this time into plank, be on the tops of the feet. So push through the hands, connect into the fingertips, hollow yourself out for 3, rounding the back, 2, and then 1. As you lower, keep the elbows in, keep the shoulders back, come all the way down, take the arms back into a W position. So into a W, lift the arms up and away. You can make the hands into fists. Get broad shoulders, broad upper back, and then bring the arms down. Take the arms forward, and before you lift the arms, try to keep the ribs in. And then inhale, lift the arms up. Again, when you're pulling in and making yourself a little bit more hollowed, then lifting the arms up a bit more if you can. And then bringing the arms down. Come back up into Sphinx and pull yourself forward. Bring yourself forward in space. Broad shoulders, broad upper back. Couple deep breaths here. Again, you could look over one shoulder or the other just to get yourself more in terms of balance with the floor. Bring yourself down. Bring the hands just underneath the shoulders. And push through the hands. Curl up into a low cobra or a high cobra. So get tailbone to move down, pubic bone to lift up. Take 3 deep breaths. Bring yourself forward, bring yourself down, have the hands just underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes, and lift straight up into a plank, and go back up into a down dog. So in a down dog, take the right leg up to the ceiling, bring the knee and nose together, take it up, bring it outside the right elbow or armpit, bring it up, and then bring it across to the left elbow. Bring it back up, and then bring it forward, right foot forward, and then with the right foot forward, bring the hands on the inside of the foot, turn both of the feet out slightly. So maybe the stance needs to be a little bit longer. We're gonna work on getting into more of your Cossacks. So slide the weight into the left foot, lift the toes, so pull the toes back towards the knee, sit over into the right side. As you sit into the right, lift the chest, bring yourself back into the middle and then to the left. And again, I'm trying to keep it even, but you may actually need to hold it more on one side. Bring yourself back up, over to the right, right? And as you're in this, you can broaden out through the hips. Bring the weight back into the middle. Take the feet out wide. The feet out wide. Just not as far as you can take it, but see if you can stand up. If your hands are down, it's good. This is not necessarily better, but there's more pressure and there's more stability in the lower body. So you want to be able to hold the pose as opposed to just holding it really deep. You want to support your weight in space. So take a couple deep breaths here. Right, and then bring the hands down, and then when you bring the hands down, I'm going to turn my right foot forward. I'm going to step my left foot forward for you. You can step forward. Just so that you can see me better, I'm going to go over to my left side. So come back into a down dog. As in a down dog, you're going to take the left leg up to the ceiling. So the left leg is high, and then bring the knee and nose together. Pull it in. Take it up. Bring the knee outside the left elbow or armpit. Take it up. So push through the fingertips. Again, keep finding your handstand in your hands in all these positions. Bring the knee outside the right elbow. Take it back up. And then step the left foot forward. And the left foot forward, have the feet again on the inside. So make it a little bit wider. And then we're going to bring it back up to a standing position. So we're going to try to get the Cossack going, but with weight bearing, without the hands. You use a book, something that's heavy enough that holds the weight, because it might be that your balance is off. So I'm going to go into my right side first. So I'm going to sit down, and now I'm having my foot either down or up. And I've said this before, you'll probably need both. Bring yourself back up, go to the left, and as you're in the left, try to lift yourself up. So there's ways of doing this differently. I'm just in the middle today. That's how I'm doing it today. You're gonna be turning to the foot, which is more of a martial arts approach. You can bring yourself up. As you're in this, again, try to get yourself up. This is why you might need to use a chair or an external weight to keep yourself up. Go back into the left. As you're back to the left, broad thighs, upper body's lifting. Take a couple deep breaths here. Bring yourself back up, come back into the middle, take the feet wide. So either squeeze the legs in or push the thighs apart. So if you're working for more space, it's a continuation of going out. But from time to time, you'll want to hug in. You want to squeeze the legs into the middle. Make the stance a bit shorter, and then turn your left foot forward, or right foot forward, and then you're going to come back to the top of the mat. So bend the front leg, come forward with the left foot or right foot, and then you're folding forward into a forward fold, and then come back into a squat again. So squat down. Again, feet can turn out. I'm going to take my left hand behind my head and turn to the upper body. So depending on how long your arm is. I like armpit into knee. Okay, that's a good connection. Just want to watch out for the elbow on the bottom arm. Arm could be up. You could be turning through the upper body. But the hand behind the head will help keep the lift of the upper body. Bring the left hand down and take the right hand behind the head. So push out through the left arm and try to lift more from the chest. In a position like this, you can really work more in it. You can really try to lift yourself up more, because it's a lot of density you'll have to work through if you can't take the arm up easily for yourself. So I could push my right hand to my left thigh. I could keep the hand behind the head, and then you can bring the hands down. Just go back to having the hands interlaced and just moving the hands, moving the wrists. So let's say you're already not able to kick up into another handstand, or you couldn't certainly walk up. Obviously that's okay. Keep working, and you could stagger it where you're working planks on certain days or side planks. Straight arm strength is easier than bent arm strength. And the more you do bent arm strength, the easier straight arm strength will get. So they really work hand in hand. But I'm going to walk up, and learning how to walk up, like I said, will really help you with in terms of your alignment. So maybe you've been doing handstands for a while and it's just not the line that you really want. This is probably one of the better ways of doing it. So I'm going to turn around and I'm going to walk my hands down. I'm going to walk my feet up the wall. So remember, walking back and forward with the hands will help take the legs up. It's the transferring of the weight, similar to walking on your hands, without, in the middle of the room, right? So I'm going to walk my right leg up the wall. Then I'm going to transfer the weight into my right hand to take the left leg up. And then I'm going to walk back. And as I'm walking back, I'm going to push through the hands. Now when I'm at the wall, I just want my toes to be at the wall. I don't want my whole body at the wall unless my hands are completely up against the wall. So I'm not all the way up against the wall. I'm on an angle. And by being on an angle, like I said, I don't want my legs to be in the wall. I just want either my toes or my nose, right? So I want to keep pushing through the hands so that it create more of a straight line. And I didn't set the timer, but I'm transferring the weight around. And like I said, maybe you're up for 5 seconds as opposed to 30 or 45 or 60. So I'm leaning into my right hand from time to time. I'm going into my left, trying to keep the arm straight. And then to come out, I'm going to bring the weight into my right hand, into my left, into my right, into my left, back, and then bringing the feet down. And then I'm coming back into a squat or a forward bend. Either one is good. But just open and close the hands. As you open and close the hands, make your right hand into a fist and pull back on the hand. So bringing the hand in the floor like we did earlier, obviously that's a good thing to do, but maybe it's not comfortable for some people. And you gotta kind of, I'd stay consistent with what type of stretches I'm using for the wrist. Pull back on the left hand, because with consistency, then you really kind of see how you're doing it. But then over time, you'd want to cycle it because familiar might not necessarily be the best way. But you want to really stick with something. And if you haven't tried something different, you want to try something different because, again, what's familiar might not necessarily be the best approach. So come back and do a standing forward bend if you're not. And then walk the hands to the left side. Walk the hands to the right. And then bring the hands back in the middle. So come onto your mat. And when you come onto your mat, you're going to come into a 90-90 stretch. So I'm just taking the legs a little bit, my feet a little bit wider than, say, my shoulders. And as I bring the feet over, the knees over, I'm working more on the internal rotation of my left hip. So I have this block to stay in my chest. And if you have good internal rotation, you might be like, well, this isn't really doing much for me. But for myself, I'm a right-handed person. So I really struggle, particularly in my left hip. So I'm trying to bring more weight into my left hip, not an exceptional amount. I mean, you could use an external weight to get more of a driving force. I'd start out really light, 5 pounds, something like that. But the block is really to keep myself upright, into an upright position. And I'm doing this for your hips, but I'm really also doing it to teach you how to extend more through the upper body. So when I come forward, I'm lifting my right leg into my chest. I'm broadening my hips. I'm trying to keep my back straight. I'm not so concerned with getting lower. I mean, you can certainly do that. As you get lower, see what's actually being manipulated. So it might be your hip, it might be the outside of your thigh, your IT band. Bring yourself up, and then when you come up, sit again into the left hip if you need that type of weight, which I do. I'm practicing on my own. I'd spend more time on this on my left side. So you could take the knee up, the left knee up, You can take the knees over to the left side. As the knees are over to the left, you could bring weight into the right hip. So I'm just kind of bringing more weight into the side, keeping myself up. And you know, you'll need it on both sides, but maybe one side more than the other, right, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to bring more weight into my right hip. I'm going to come forward. As I come forward, I'm keeping my back straight as well as I can. And then I'm loading up the outside of the hip. And if the hands are down, you know, kind of like what I said about the wide angle position that we had today, you know, maybe that's better for you. You know, maybe you do need the use of the hands. And it's not necessarily bad, right? It could be very helpful. Bring yourself up again. Bring the weight into the right hip. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then bring yourself forward. Bring yourself down. You know, think that you're expanding into the space that's around you. And then bring yourself back up. And then when you come back up, sit on a higher surface for a wide angle position. So I'm up on a higher surface with my hips, and then I'm going to take my legs out into a wide position. As you take the legs out wide, I'm using a second block, and I'm going to use it to help bring myself forward in different angles. So initially, just still think that the block is in your chest and that you're bringing it forward, right? And I'm not going to my end just yet. Then I'm going to slide back up. When I'm sliding up, I'm pushing the legs down, right? I'm trying to get the legs to be more engaged. When I'm coming forward, I'm trying to lift the legs up and out. Not that we're trying to take the legs off the floor, but you're trying to lift up. You're using your hip flexors. So when I'm sliding forward, I'm lifting the legs up. And a chair is really, really good. So like if you have a chair, maybe you're not as low as I am. A chair is really great. You can slide it forward again, lift the thighs up and out, and then slide it back. And then when you slide it back, keep pushing the legs to the floor. So get the legs to press down. Now come off the block, and when you come off the block, use your hands to widen the legs. So as you spend more time on this, I'm using my hands, my right hand's in front. I'm pushing my thighs apart. Now if you want to go back up on the block again, you can certainly do that. So if this is hard for you, know that you can bring your legs in, you can bring your legs out. You know, that's going to be part of your process if that's what you need. So now I'm going to use the block, but in just different angles. So I'm going to slide it forward, a different angle, right? More like a 45-degree angle. I'm going to slide it back. Again, when I'm sliding it back, I'm grounding down. I'm going to slide it forward. I'm going to slide it back. And then I'm going to take it over to the right side for you. It might be the left, right? Doesn't matter which side you start with. Slide it forward. Lift the thighs up and out. Slide it back. Slide it forward. Keep your back up. Keep your chest up. Bring it forward or back. Now, if you can, have this block into your chest. Bring yourself forward. So use your legs to come forward as opposed to your arms. And if your hands are down, of course that works. But when I'm not using my arms, I have to rely more on the strength of my legs. So when I'm forward, I'm lifting the legs up. I'm pushing the legs out. And then when I come up, I'm grounding down through the thighs, getting myself to be upright. Bring your feet back together for Baddha Konasana. So have the feet together, have the knees wide, have the right hand on the right thigh, push into the thigh, resist the pressure. Really simple but very effective. On Wednesday's class, I used the wall for this. So when you have your back up against the wall, you can push into both of your thighs. Bring the right hand down and then bring the left hand on the left thigh. So I'm pushing into the thigh, I'm resisting the pressure, getting more and more space into my left hip. And you know, it's when you're adding weight, no matter what kind of weight you're using, another person, an external weight, you want to use the right kind of pressure. You need the weight, right, to go further, but you don't want to obviously use too much pressure where you're, harming yourself. Bring your hands down and then push your legs apart. So get your legs apart, right? And then what you do is bring the feet back into a neutral position, and then just with your right hand, come into a squat. Bring your left hand back, squat down, come into a Baddha Konasana. Push the thighs apart. Bring the feet back to neutral. Just use your left hand, come into a squat. Right? Maybe you already know that you can't go back with one hand or whatever, It's fine, but when you have these things, I highly, highly recommend having some practice around it and getting it better, getting it healthier. So you can bring the right hand back, you can sit down. Like, you don't want to just be like, oh yeah, I rolled my ankle when whatever, or I did something to my shoulder, and there's a lot you could be doing for a problematic joint, right? Bring the hands back, use your left hand, bring yourself up back into a squat, bring your right hand back, sit down, push through the right hand, bring yourself up, right? Bring both hands back, sit down, come into a cross-legged position, sit nice and tall, get the legs to squeeze in, get the legs to squeeze out, recross the leg. So a good thing to do is use your hands to re-switch the legs, right? Get your hands more involved, squeeze the legs in, push the legs apart, and then what we're gonna do is take the legs out wide again, and we're gonna go back to having the block slide. So have the legs out in a wide position before whether you're on a block or not, right? If I'm up on a block, I may not be able to come as far forward. You could certainly do it with or without it, I'm just gonna stay down for today, but my block is now out in front of me. So each time I push it, we're gonna try to push it a little bit further, but again, know your boundaries. So stretch the block forward, and then just walk back a little bit, and then push it forward, walk it back, keep your chest up. Again, keep the legs moving out, push it forward a little bit more, bring it back. So the backing off is really good, and the forward is really training your body, training your nervous system to go further, right? I'm gonna slide it forward a little bit more. So think belly to the floor or nose to the floor. Bring yourself up. Anytime you need to come out, of course that's available. I'm gonna come forward again. So the block is a way to measure. Bring it out. You might not be able to see my block. I'm gonna slide it forward even more. And then I'm gonna bring myself up. And then I'm going to come back into a Baddha Konasana position. So have the feet together, have the knees wide, push the legs apart. You'll find it's going to get easier to be in this type of position. So pushing the legs apart, and then come back into a squat again. And you'll find that squatting gets easier. If it's the feet or the calf muscles that are really making it more difficult for you, then just simply stretching out the calf muscles is very tedious, but that makes a big difference. I'm just adding something to help you. Is I'm just in a one-legged squat, but I'm bringing more weight into the foot, and you'll feel like a pretty big stretch below the calf muscles, the gastrocnemius, and that's really what's hindering people from squatting deeper. Same thing, I can bring the weight into the right foot. So I'm just bringing the weight forward. And the heel might be a little bit off the floor, and that's just a representation of how much flexibility you have in the ankle. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just want to be careful with the knee. You got problematic knees. Maybe you're not working so deep into the squat just yet. So come back onto your hands and your knees. And just have the knees a little bit off the floor. So just a little bit more conditioning we did the handstands, right? Just a little bit more conditioning for the arms. So I'm going to take my knees up off the floor, and these are just bear crawls. Just going to walk forward a little bit, walking back. So getting the legs to move as the hands move, right? And then back. So see where you hold the weight, and that might be why the hands hurt or the wrists hurt. Walk it forward a little bit. Walk it back. What's good is having something on your back like a heavy block or a book, and you don't want to drop the block, right? Bring it forward a little bit, and then bring it back. Now go back up into a down dog. Pull back through the thighs, pull back through the hips, push through the hands, rotate the shoulders out. Big part of your handstand is really getting the hands to be engaged. And the easier it is to do, manipulate into the shoulders. So just walk the feet in a bit, walk the hands back towards the feet, be in a standing forward bend. Those of you that don't forward bend, be in a seated position or virasana, right? But just in a forward fold, just take the hands to the left side, take them to the right, bring it back into the middle. Now make it shorter, a short stance, and we're going to do pike push-ups. So if piking, I'll do the first one in down dog, which is easier to do. The more narrow the stance, the more the shoulders get loaded. And let's say you're lacking strength in the shoulders to support your weight. It's a big reason why I'm doing it, right? Again, the numbers can be low. You can always spread it out, do morning, afternoon practice, evening practice. So if you don't have a lot of strength, that's a very good way of practice, is spreading it out further apart. So step back into a down dog. And then in a down dog, I'm going to stay with my hips elevated, but I'm going to come forward and then go back. Right? Now you do a negative is very good, is coming forward. Squeeze the elbows in, bring the knees down, take a breath, go back up. So it's really about smart practice as opposed to just really hard practice, right? Go back up into a down dog. Really pushing yourself has its place, right? Of course. So I'm going to make it shorter, and then when I make it shorter, these again, pike push-ups. So I'm going to come forward with my chest, elbows are in. And I'm going to press back. So I'm going to come forward, back up, right? When the technique gets a little sloppy, right, just come into plank, right? Keep working plank as opposed to just something like this. Come forward, press back up. One more time. Pull back through the hips, come forward with the chest, press through the fingertips, bring yourself back up. Now come down on the hands and knees and sit back on the heels. So sitting back on the heels, just going to take the hands up overhead and just tap the fingers together. So just to get the forearms to work a little bit more, strengthening the forearms, the wrist. So there's it makes a big difference in getting stronger in the hands, the forearms, to be up on your hands. Again, that's why I'm doing it. Right? And then bring the arms, the hands down, just in a rested position. So have your blocks next to you. And with your blocks next to you, or a chair or something like that, is with little use of the hands, lift the knees up. And then bring them forward. Connect into the abdomen, lift them up. And bring it down. Bring the blocks a little lower if you can. Lift it up. And then lower. Bring the blocks even lower. It could be on fingertips, lift it up. And then lower. So below the navel is what you're trying to connect into. You have the hands on the floor. Pulling back up. Bring it forward. And back up. You can find it gets easier, and it might be momentum. Not that that's bad. And again, it's not necessarily about a number, but just getting more of a connection makes a big difference. So come into a standing forward bend. Walk the hands back towards the feet. Bring the feet together. The feet together, cross the left foot over the right foot. Crossing the ankles, crossing the shins. Take a couple deep breaths here. All right, bring the weight into the hands, bring the left foot next to the right. Cross the right foot over the left. Take a few deep breaths here. And then bring the right foot next to the left. Bring the right hand underneath the foot, toes up to the wrist. Again, bring more weight into the hand if you need it. Don't have the weight in the hand if it's too much pressure, it hurts. Should feel pretty good. You know, the many bones of the hands, you're spacing out the bones, the joints. Take the right hand out, bring the left hand underneath the foot. And, I need it more on my left side, so I'm pulling the arm back. Think straight up towards the ceiling, and a slight rotation out. And to really manipulate a joint, twisting the joint makes a big difference. Makes a world of difference, right? Come back into a seated position, and in a seated position, just have the legs crossed. Take the left hand to the left. Reach the right hand to the right. Take the right hand back behind you. Lean back in space. So if you're wanting to get more leverage in the right hip, is come down under the elbow, the left elbow, but come up. You don't have to get fully committed all the way down. You can come to the elbow, right? You could obviously hold that longer, right? You can bring yourself up and then get to the elbow again, but keep moving back in space. Take the right hand back behind you, bring yourself, or beside you, recross the legs. Take the right hand to the right side, reach the left hand to the left. You could be forward, you could be leaning back, hand could be behind the head. So much easier for me to get lower, but it's just different. I have more flexibility in the spine on this side, but I don't have the flexibility as much in the hip or the QL. So it's good on both sides for me. But again, see what you actually need. You could come up onto the elbow, so elbows up. You can come down to the elbow, bring it up, and bring it down. So lean back, manipulate the upper body, and then bring the left hand down. And then come into a tabletop position, so the legs are forward, the hands are just underneath the shoulders. And this is just for the shoulders, will help with overhead positions, is lift the hips up off the floor. Now you can take the head back if you want, push through the hands, rotate through the shoulders. I use this a lot in my basic positions or basic classes or fundamental classes. A very good thing for handstands, right? So bring the hips down, but make it a little bit longer and just move the weight forward so the hips are moving towards the feet. Then come back for a moment. Bring the weight forward so the hips are coming forward towards the feet. And then back. And then forward again. Broad shoulders. Back up. Should feel pretty good. If it doesn't feel good, you're going too far. Be patient. It's not really that important to get all the way forward and down. And then bring yourself back up. When you're back, just have the legs into a Baddha Konasana position. This time around, have the hands beside you, but lift the hips off the floor and push the knees apart. So you get the legs to move apart, broad thighs, elevated, which will help with the hips. And then bring the hips down. And then when you bring the hips down, we're going to do a little bit more for your core just before you relax. We'll do a little bit of a twist, right? So have the hands beside the knees. The closer the hands are to the legs or the feet, the more difficult it is. So start back here. Just lift the right leg up. Take the left leg up. Bring the right leg up. Bring the left leg up. Say it's really difficult for you. Pick a number, set that number, try to get to that number. But if I can, I'm going to take my legs more up off the floor. So I'm going to pull up and down. I'm going to bring the legs up and down, bringing up and down. And then when I get closer to the end, I may want to bring the hands back more so I could do more repetition and then back down. So have yourself on your back where your knees are bent. And with your knees bent, you're going to just do some rotations for the shoulders. So I'm on my back. My knees are to the left and I'm on my left side. So I'm going to circle my right arm overhead and to the right. And a little bit of weight, like if your block is heavy, like a cork block, is great to start with. And that rotation will help with rotating the shoulder out for extension. Then look up to the ceiling, take the knees up, take the knees over to the right side. You're now on your right hip. And then take the left arm beyond the right arm and circle it up overhead and to the left. So as I take my arm overhead, I'm looking to the hand the whole time, getting a full rotation in my upper body and my shoulder. And then I'm going to look to the hand and I'm going to circle it back. And when you're taking the arm overhead, and find an angle that you just don't have the arm, or it's not touching the floor, possibly for some of you, that's a great place. Then look up to the ceiling, roll back onto your back, take your knees wide. You can have the soles of your feet together for Baddha Konasana, or you could be in a happy baby. So widen the thighs, widen the hips, and then you can relax on your back. So just be on your back, and then once you're relaxing on your back, you can relax your hands, your feet, your legs. As you're on your back, relax through the face fully. So the beauty of Hatha Yoga is that there's an end. You relax. So essential, so critical. So when I have a really strong day of practice, the next day is more restorative, and that might be just light stretching or breath work, or say again, as these classes, if they're very difficult for you, maybe your practice is lighter tomorrow, and then you can cycle it. But I don't practice really, I do progressive stuff most days, but I do use my measure in terms of if I may need to relax more. So if you're the person that has more time and you want to lie on your back more, you can. But you could certainly bring awareness back into your hands, back into your feet, and you could bring yourself back up. And then if you're in a seated position, fantastic. And we really love the support. So give me any kind of questions, or you need help with an injury, I'd love to help you more. I'm here to support you as best as I can. I love this platform because I can reach out to so many people. So if you like the class, continue to share it with your friends and your family. Let them know that they have a place to start and a place to progress. All my classes are on my YouTube channel, so if you can't ever take the live class, you can go to that channel and you can take the classes because they're here for you. All right, have a beautiful weekend if we don't see you. All right, namaste.
Namaste.